Welcome to The Debate. Imagine hosting an elite business awards gala, right?
Okay, yeah.
Completely selling out the room, flying in top-tier executives, rolling out the red carpet, and then, at the absolute climax of the evening, refusing to announce a single winner.
Which is just, honestly, wild to think about.
Right? So, is that the ultimate act of egalitarian empowerment, or is it a genius marketing ploy designed to create this perpetual friction-free content engine? Today, we are dissecting a really fascinating case study in modern corporate recognition, which is the KZN Top Business Women 2026 initiative.
Yes, and before we dive into the mechanics of this, I think it's vital we establish exactly where we are operating. Just a quick bit of housekeeping.
Right, the linguistic ground rules.
Exactly. For our global listeners, that acronym is KZN, and because this initiative is fiercely, unapologetically South African in its DNA, you pronounce it with a proud, definitive Z.
Oh, absolutely.
If you say KZN like some American sitcom, you're going to get some very confused looks on the streets of Durban. It is strictly KZN.
Right, we are honoring the local rules today. So our honors absolutely take a U. Our programs have extra letters. Our organizations use an S, and we gather at the center of the room.
The Queen's English, but with that distinct local South African stamp.
Exactly.
And that local identity isn't just trivia here. It's fundamental to why this specific initiative resonates so deeply in the region. But the strategy behind it is entirely universal. It forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question about the nature of prestige.
It really does. My position is that the master publisher behind this initiative has fundamentally rewritten the rules of business media. They've created a revolutionary safe sanctuary.
A sanctuary?
Yes, because by entirely removing the cutthroat competitive nature of traditional awards, this model becomes a genuine peer-to-peer economic launchpad. I mean, it democratizes the celebration while permanently honoring its finalists.
Well, I understand the appeal of that narrative, but I think you have to separate the altruistic intent from, the actual hard-nosed execution.
Okay, how so?
Because the underlying mechanics tell a very different story. I argue that this initiative's power relies fundamentally on highly orchestrated, manufactured exclusivity.
Manufactured?
Absolutely. Yes, it has this veneer of democratization, but the engine runs entirely on gated prestige. The sanctuary you are describing is, in reality, a brilliantly disguised content engine.
Right, but
It leverages the credibility of billionaires to fuel a permanent 24/7 digital billboard. It's less about pure mentorship and much more about creating a highly lucrative search-optimized marketing asset for the publisher.
I see why you might look at the sheer scale of the media output and assume it's purely transactional. But to understand why it's not, you have to examine the actual psychological structure of the room.
Okay, let's look at the room.
Right, so the master publisher didn't just throw 40 successful women into a gala. They deliberately designed a 4-tier ecosystem.
Right.
You have the titans, so these are the top-level billionaires who set the absolute baseline for what is possible. Then you have the corporate veterans, the women who have slugged it out for decades and hold superior board positions.
Yeah, the mentors of the group, essentially.
Exactly. And beneath them are the professionals. Established experts who don't need an entry-level promotion, but need that high-level endorsement to inspire their sectors. And finally, you have the rising entrepreneurs.
Right, the emerging tier that theoretically absorbs all this ambient wisdom.
But it's not just theoretical. Think of it like a vertical greenhouse.
A vertical greenhouse?
Yeah. In a highly competitive environment, say a standard Entrepreneur of the Year award, the canopy of that greenhouse blocks the light.
Because everyone is fighting for the same trophy.
Exactly. Everyone is fighting for the same sliver of sunshine. But because there is no single winner announced here, the barriers completely drop. The self-made billionaire is in the exact same room, receiving the exact same honor as the emerging startup founder.
I see what you're saying, but
The canopy actively protects and nurtures the seedlings. It forces a genuine, unguarded peer-to-peer incubation that you simply cannot manufacture if people are competing against each other.
look, that is a beautiful metaphor, but a vertical greenhouse still exists to yield a cash crop, and in this case, the crop is attention.
I wouldn't call it just attention.
Well, I don't buy that this is pure insulated incubation, because if you look at the distribution model, the environment is anything but insulated.
Right? They have a massive reach.
Massive. This initiative leverages a core database of 80,000 subscribed businesses, and it pushes out an ecosystem-wide campaign backed by a volume of 1 million monthly emails.
Which I would argue provides unprecedented visibility for those rising entrepreneurs. It gives them a platform they could never afford to buy.
It gives them visibility, yes, but why does the audience look at them in the first place? In the attention economy, a massive database is useless if no one actually opens the email.
Sure.
You need a mechanism to guarantee engagement, and that right there is where your titans come in.
Okay, where are you going with this?
To borrow a real estate concept, the billionaires and corporate veterans are the anchor tenants in a shopping mall. A mall developer doesn't charge the massive department store full rent, right?
Right, they give them a deal.
Exactly, because their sheer presence guarantees the foot traffic that keeps the smaller, boutique stores alive.
So you are saying the master publisher is using the billionaires to validate the entire media asset?
Precisely. The announcement starts in the KZ Business Sense newspaper, lands with all the chambers of commerce, and hits those 1 million inboxes. If that email is just for 40 unknown startup founders, the open rate plummets. But because the rising entrepreneurs are placed in the exact same tier as the titans, the master publisher effectively transfers the credibility and the aura of the billionaire directly onto the broader media package.
So it's an anchor tenant strategy.
Exactly. The titans ensure the engagement metrics of this massive database remain sky high. It's a brilliant media rollout disguised as a mentorship circle.
That's a compelling, albeit deeply cynical way to look at audience psychology.
I prefer realistic.
Well, you're assuming the human element is entirely secondary to the algorithmic strategy. But if the goal was just to exploit these women for email open rates, you wouldn't need the intense, deeply personal production process that precedes the actual event.
You mean the curation phase?
Right. The curation phase proves this is about authentic connection.
You are talking about the multi-month content engine leading up to November.
I am. It is specifically designed to build a viewing habit while, actually humanizing the participants. Every Thursday at 1900 for 4 weeks, there are high-level panel webinars.
Right.
And they aren't just hosted by anybody. You have major corporate champions steering these conversations. Advocate Priya representing the Women of Africa Group, executives from APSA Private Bank, Jennifer Reddy from Mara Incorporated, and the editor herself, Gail Adlam, validates the arduous nature of the women's journeys. And all of that happens before they even get to the crown jewel of the process.
Which is the Radisson experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a feeling we are going to disagree heavily on what actually happens on the 4th floor of that hotel.
Well, let me set the scene first for the listeners. So they take 10 women a week up to the 4th floor of the Radisson. They walk the Platinum Walk, they celebrate with champagne, and they are photographed by Brendan.
Who is an incredible photographer, yes.
Arguably a world-class talent, right? But here's the crucial part. While the cameras are rolling, the editorial crew conducts deeply raw, unscripted video interviews.
Raw?
Yes, raw. They capture the visceral, authentic struggles and triumphs of what it actually takes to build a business. That isn't a cynical open-rate strategy. It is capturing the unfiltered truth of female entrepreneurship.
Unfiltered truth is a massive stretch when you look at the physical artifacts this process actually generates.
How so?
I mean, you are describing an environment of champagne, platinum walks, and elite photography. Let's trace what happens to those assets. Brendan's standout shots don't just sit in a raw documentary archive somewhere.
No, they become physical keepsakes.
Right. They are blown up into beautifully framed A1 portraits. They are placed into the KZN Top Business Women coffee table book. And this isn't some quick, flimsy paperback.
Definitely not.
It is a classic, durable publication, hand-bound and stitched by BKB bookbinders right there in Durban.
Which speaks directly to the pumments and quality of the honor.
No, it speaks to the manufacturing of prestige. In a purely digital age, physical permanence, like a hand-stitched heavy stock book, is the ultimate signal of authority.
Sure, it's authoritative.
But you cannot call the interviews raw when they are actively being wrapped in the supermodel treatment. It is highly produced theatrics, designed for maximum aesthetic impact.
I think you're confusing production value with inauthenticity.
The champagne, the binding, the A1 prints, it is an intoxicating brand asset. The master publisher knows that if you make the participants look and feel like royalty, they will enthusiastically share the content. It's an engine fueled by vanity and aesthetic perfection, not raw vulnerability.
I'm just not convinced by that line of reasoning. You seem to be equating high production value with a fundamental lack of authenticity. Why are those two things mutually exclusive?
Because one inherently polishes the other.
But the irony of the master publisher is that they initially resisted doing a women's award precisely because they feared creating something tokenistic or, superficial.
So the solution to avoiding superficiality was to give everyone a hand-stitched book and a photo shoot?
No. The solution was to elevate the aesthetic to match the magnitude of their real-world achievements. By giving these women the hand-stitched BKB book and the framed A1 portrait, they are offering a permanent, undeniable validation of their journey. So many female entrepreneurs operate in the shadows, fighting imposter syndrome or systemic barriers.
That is true.
Giving them the supermodel treatment, as you call it, doesn't erase the authenticity of the tears they shed in that interview chair. It honors those tears. It says, your struggle is worthy of this level of absolute premium respect.
I will concede that the psychological validation for the individual is profound. It is. But we have to look at how that validation is then deployed to an audience.
Okay.
The true test of this sanctuary isn't the intimate photography studio on a Tuesday afternoon. It's what happens when you monetize that intimacy on November 12th.
The live gala.
The live gala. Picture the physical experience you just described, but now scale it up. The finalists step out of the lift onto the 4th floor of the Radisson. They are immediately hit by the sound of live violins and saxophones.
It's beautiful.
They walk the red carpet, turn the corner, and suddenly see all 40 of those A1 portraits suspended from the ceiling under perfectly focused spotlights. The environmental design is engineered to induce pure, overwhelming goosebumps.
And total, unapologetic pride for them, and for the partners who supported them through the late nights and the financial stress.
Undoubtedly. But then they walk into the main room, and this is where the genius of the manufactured exclusivity really crystallizes.
Here we go.
That room is not a standard corporate dinner. It is produced and directed as a live television show. Carol O'Forey from East Coast Radio, who, by the way, understands the cadence of a live broadcast better than anyone, she hosts the evening.
She's fantastic.
And a past winner herself.
Right. She seamlessly weaves the ladies into the program through unscripted panels. But here is the kicker, the really important part. You cannot buy a table to this event.
Because it's an intimate space.
It is strictly invitation only, it is completely oversubscribed, and it is heavily gated. It is artificial scarcity at its finest. By making the room impossible to access for the general public, the publisher spikes the perceived value of being inside it to stratospheric levels.
Okay, but
The physical room is essentially just the highly exclusive studio set for the real product.
look, I think calling it artificial scarcity ignores the physical reality of elite live events. There are literal capacity limitations to a space like the Radisson. But more importantly, closing the room protects the women.
It protects them from what?
Have you ever been to a standard corporate awards dinner?
More than I can count.
Dry. The speeches are endless. Half the room is looking at their phones, and there is this agonizing tension waiting to see who wins. By keeping it invitation only and non-competitive, the women actually get to enjoy their night.
Well, they do get to relax, yes.
But you are right that the live event is only half the strategy. And this brings us to what I consider the absolute masterstroke of the entire initiative, which is the 48-hour pivot.
Right, transitioning from the physical event to the digital broadcast.
Exactly. So the event happens on a Thursday night. The women are celebrated, they get spoiled, they take their physical awards home. They don't have to worry about a live streaming glitch or, playing to a camera.
They just get to be present.
Yes. Then, 48 hours later, on Saturday at 19:30, the entire polished production is broadcast globally on the KZN Top Business YouTube channel. It's what they call the lounge room watch party.
It moves the corporate recognition out of the gated Radisson and directly into the domestic space.
It completely democratizes the milestone, Partners, children, cousins, neighbors, they can all gather around a screen on a Saturday night. It doubles the visibility, but zeroes out the fatigue. The finalists can sit back in their living rooms with a glass of champagne and actually watch their own story unfold with the rest of the world. It is a triumph of empathetic design.
I will happily agree that the 48-hour pivot, moving from a Thursday live theater experience to a Saturday primetime broadcast, is a brilliant structural innovation.
Thank you.
It cleanly solves the inherent contradiction of elite events. You know, you want the strict curation and prestige of a locked room, but you also want the limitless scale of the internet. The delay gives you both.
Right.
However, this is exactly what fuels the multi-year tail, which is the real ROI for the publisher.
Meaning the digital longevity of the content.
Meaning these aren't just nice home videos for the family. They are search-optimized marketing assets. Because this platform is structured to rank highly on search engines, these videos don't die the morning after the hangover fades.
True, they live on.
We are seeing incredibly niche business videos getting 35,000 organic views years later. Look at the data. A video of Jennifer Reddy from 2019 is actively climbing toward 450,000 views in 2026.
That is incredible reach.
That kind of enduring relevance is practically unheard of in regional corporate media. So yes, the women get their sanctuary on Thursday, but by Saturday, they have cast themselves as the starring talent in a highly lucrative, permanent 24/7 billboard for the publisher.
But
The intimate emotions of Thursday night are the exact fuel required to power the algorithmic billboard of the next decade.
that algorithmic billboard serves the women just as much as it serves the publisher. The tragedy of traditional event marketing is that it is entirely ephemeral.
True.
You win an award, you get polite applause, and by Monday, everyone has forgotten it even happened. The fact that a video from 2019 is hitting nearly 500,000 views today proves that this content transcends just news.
It becomes an evergreen asset.
High-value digital asset for the woman herself. It acts as a continuous lead generator for her business. The master publisher hasn't just built an audience for themselves, they have built an economic launch pad that permanently honors the arduous nature of a woman's business journey.
It is a symbiotic relationship, certainly, but we cannot separate the empowerment from the economics. The sanctuary only exists because the media engine is so flawlessly tuned.
They work together.
Right. The billionaires provide the gravitational pull, the BQB bookbinders provide the tactile prestige, and the 1 million emails provide the distribution network. It is a high-end publishing engine that brilliantly uses the illusion of exclusivity to sustain long-term mass-market digital relevance.
And I still maintain that the KZN Top Business Women 2026 initiative proves that economics and deep empathy can actually coexist. Yes, the network effects are staggering, but by consciously stripping out the divisive nature of competition and by carefully curating that ecosystem from the titans all the way down to the rising entrepreneurs, they have built something deeply supportive.
It's certainly a supportive environment.
The live violins, the suspended A1 portraits, the Saturday night watch party. They aren't just cogs in a marketing machine. They are the scaffolding of a genuinely egalitarian celebration that elevates everyone it touches.
Creating an ecosystem that seamlessly balances billionaire exclusivity with highly accessible digital longevity is, well, it's undeniably complex.
Very.
The sheer architectural foresight required to maintain the prestige of a locked, invitation-only room while simultaneously broadcasting to hundreds of thousands of viewers years later is a masterclass in modern media strategy. It requires an intense understanding of both human vanity and algorithmic distribution.
It truly does. It forces us to completely reconsider what business media can actually achieve when it stops trying to crown a single victor and starts cultivating an entire ecosystem.
Absolutely.
So, to our listeners, we highly suggest exploring the KZN Top Business ecosystem online to see these compounding network effects and this incredible roster of women for yourselves.
And maybe search for that 2019 video, just to see how the attention economy operates in real time.
Highly recommended. We started today by talking about the standard playbook of elite business awards. You know, the sold-out gala that ends with a single name in an envelope.
Right.
But as we've seen, when you ground an initiative in genuine peer-to-peer mentorship, unapologetic local identity, and a brilliantly structured digital pivot, the entire paradigm shifts. It stops being a fleeting competition and becomes a permanent antenna that broadcasts a woman's journey to the world. We leave you to consider whether that makes it the ultimate sanctuary for female entrepreneurs, the ultimate prestige marketing machine, or perhaps the perfect synthesis of both.